This is the Royal Bangkok Sports Club, a green oasis in the middle of Bangkok. It is known for horse racing venues and for having one of the oldest golf courses in Thailand. 110 years ago, on the 2nd of February 1911, the first powered flight took place right here. Thanks to visionary members of the Royal House, diplomats here in Bangkok, and an aviation pioneer from Europe who managed to get there in time. Charles van den Born was born in Belgium in 1874. He became a well-known bicycle racer and an automobile racer. In March 1910, he earned French pilot's license number 37 and became a test pilot for Henri Farman, a French aviation pioneer. Later that year, he took 3 Farman airplanes, packed them in crates, and traveled by sea to Saigon in Indochina, which is today's Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. In December 1910, he made several demonstration flights. Then Van den Born traveled to Bangkok, where he from 2nd to 8th of February 1911 made several demonstration flights at this very place. Among the spectators were notabilities like Prince Chakrabangsy, I hope I pronounce this correct, Chief of the Army General Staff, and Prince Purashatra, Commander of the Army Engineers. Both were brothers of the king, Rama VI. It appears that it was Prince Purashatra who became the first Thai to fly in an airplane, followed by his brother. Both of them would soon play important roles in the development of aviation in Siam. The Bangkok Times Weekly, February 8, 1911. The aviation meeting. Last evening, His Majesty the King paid an unexpected visit to the course and watched the proceedings with apparent interest. Subsequently, His Majesty went over and inspected the aeroplane and conversed with Mr. Van den Born for some minutes, after which the aviator made a short flight so that the King could see the machine start from close quarters. Among those present yesterday were His Royal Highness the Prince of Phitsanulok and His Royal Highness Prince Nairys. Mr. Van den Born had trouble with his motor all day, and only in the evening was it working satisfactorily. After a trial flight, the aviator gave a lesson to an army officer going several miles in a few minutes. An exhibition flight in the enclosure for a prize given by a Chinese firm was heartily applauded, and admiration was excited by the graceful salute given each time the machine passed His Majesty's stand. Dr. M. A. Smith was then a passenger and had a capital flight out beyond the police school. It was now getting dark, but one more flight was made, Mr. P. Nesbitt being the passenger. The King was impressed. Educated in the United Kingdom, the King understood the potential of aviation in Siam. It didn't take long before the Aviation Section of the Army Engineering Division was established. Just 3 weeks after Van den Born's demonstration flights, 3 army officers were sent to France to learn how to fly. In November 1913, they were fully qualified pilots and returned to Siam, via Russia and Japan, with 8 airplanes, 4 Nieuports and 4 Breguets. On the 13th of January 1914, the 3 pilots made demonstration flights at the grounds of the Royal Bangkok Sports Club in front of a large audience, including the King. This day has become the National Aviation Day. Later that year, the Aviation Section moved to Don Muang Airport and became the Royal Siamese Flying Corps. A movie from 2007 is based on those events and describes the adventures of the first aviators in Siam. Today is Don Muang, a suburb to Bangkok. You find a very busy airport here. You have the headquarters of Royal Thai Air Force, and here is the Royal Thai Air Force Museum, which tells the story from the very beginning until today. So let's go inside and have a look. As I said previously, the aviation service received 4 Nieuports. There were in fact 2 different models, the 2N and the 4G model. This is a replica of the 2N. It's powered by a 28 horsepower Nieuport engine. And the other variant, the 4G, is powered by a 50 horsepower GNOME engine. The Nieuport II was designed in 1910 as a sporting and racing airplane. In 1911, it set a world record with 119.6 kilometers per hour by using this engine. This was achieved by some very clever aerodynamics. For example, there are very few cables supporting the wings. And also, the pilot was sitting very low in the cockpit. The Nieuport II is a single-seat monoplane. It's made of wood and covered by fabric. The length is 7.15 meters and the wingspan 8.65 meters. The empty weight is only 240 kilograms and maximum weight is 340 kilograms. This is the landing gear. It consists of 2 wheels and a long skid. The skid prevents you from tipping over on the nose, and it's dragging along the ground halfway down the fuselage. There is no tail skid on this aircraft, so this acts as a tail skid as well. The flight controls are quite unique. The only normal operating controls are the elevators. They move up and down when you move the stick back and forth. The rudder is also controlled by the stick, so when you move the stick left and right, you turn the rudder, and the rudder is the entire vertical stabilizer. There are no ailerons here. Instead, the entire wing is flexible, and by pulling all the aft cables, you can, over and under the wing, you can change the angle of attack of the wing. And this is controlled by a bar which you push with your feet. For example, if you want to bank the aircraft to the right, you have to increase the angle of attack on the left wing. This is done by pulling the cable below and pulling the cable above the right wing. Then the wings will have different angle of attack and the aircraft will start to bank. Okay, we're starting walk around on the right wingtip. Of course, there are no navigation lights here. And the wing profile is quite shallow and with a pointy leading edge. And as you move forward, we have one of the touch points on the top of the wing. So this is attached to the main spar, so this doesn't twist. For the wing warping, you have the wire on the aft part of the wing. This is the flexible part. The wires on the top are supported up here, and this keeps the wings in place on the ground. And if you look underneath, you will see that there are wires attached to the bars and the skid. And this is a replica, so not everything is 100% accurate. But it gives a good layout of the engine. Twin-cylinder engine. It developed as little as 28 horsepower. So quite amazing it managed to go that fast as it did. And you see the cylinder head, we have the spark plug, we have the inlet valve below and the exhaust valve on the top. And the apparatus under here must be the carburetor and air intake. No air filter here. On the landing gear, we have light suspension like you find on the cars, in fact. A nice wooden propeller, of course. That's how they made it those times. Even there were a few manufacturers making metal propellers as well. More wires coming up, and the wing is the same. Okay, here is the left aft wing, and we can move towards the fuselage. And have a peek towards the cockpit. I expect it to be empty. Maybe they have a seat. Yes, there is a seat there and even a stick. That's really good. Don't expect to find seat belts here. The first pilot used seat belts were an American pilot in 1911, I think. Okay. To get on board, there is a step here on the fuselage. Yep. And looking backwards, here is the horizontal stabilizer. The horizontal stabilizers are quite big. And here is the rudder. One piece covers everything. Okay, sorry about the noise from the aircon. That's how it is. Let's have a look forward to the aircraft. And you see the skid under the fuselage. That's where the aircraft is supported. So unlike every other tail dragger aircraft, the tail doesn't touch the ground. That is quite unique. The second airplane model bought by the Aviation Service was the Breguet Model III. It was first flown in 1910, and this is a replica, and it may not look exactly similar to what you see on the pictures and paintings of this airplane, because Breguet made many different variants of this model. Shown on this replica is a model of an REP engine which developed 60 horsepower. There's a 4-blade propeller here, but I think that's overkill with only 60 horsepower. And on most pictures of this airplane, you will see propeller with 2 propeller blades. Unlike most other airplane manufacturers who made their airplanes of wood, Breguet used metal. The entire airframe and structure are made of steel. This was very useful in a tropical climate like in Thailand. The empty weight of the airplane was about 700 kilograms, but the maximum takeoff weight was from 1100 to 1260 kilograms, depending on the engine, so it can carry a big load. Okay, let's take a look at this airplane. The lower wing has a shorter wingspan than the top wing, and you will notice there's only one set of struts. So you may wonder what is supporting the upper wing. It's in fact the forward spar, which you can see the wires attached to. Then in front there's another wire attached to the landing gear. I'm not sure if that is correct, because this is a replica. And you will notice there are no ailerons up here, and you cannot warp a steel wing. So what they did, they tilted the entire wing, left and right wing, up and down. And you can see on this picture where the top wing is tilted down on both sides. Let's continue and take a closer look at one of the struts. And you will notice this is pure steel, a circular tube. So not very aerodynamic. You will see the steering wheel for the pilot. He's sitting in the aft of the open cockpit. And you can put many people in the forward part of the cockpit, because it could carry 400 to 500 kilograms of load. Moving forward, you can see the lower wing is below the fuselage, and here is a lot of arrangement of tubes. And the landing gear is quite modern. It's a tricycle landing gear. The nose gear, however, has no steering, so you need people pushing on the wings to steer the airplane on the ground. And when you're up to speed, the rudder will do the job. And furthermore, there is very little suspension. There are some coil springs on the main rod down to the main gear. However, you shouldn't expect too much from this. Moving up, we have the beautiful propellers. In fact, they put together two-blade propeller blades here. A replica of the engine. This is a 7-cylinder radial engine. And this airplane could carry a lot of different engines, and that changed the layout of the airplane a lot. Moving further out, and we have the other wingtip. This replica is not 100% correct. When you compare to the pictures, you will see many differences. But you get the general layout and impression. Let's move over to the back side. The cockpit is quite high up. And there is in fact a ladder on the left side of the fuselage. Moving back, here's the tail structure. And there are no moving parts except for the entire tail section, which is attached with this coupling here. So it can rotate in all axes, up, down, left, right. That is also a very unique feature for this airplane. It didn't take long before Siam established its own aviation industry, because it was impractical to rely on spare parts from Europe, and it was decided that Siam should build its own airplanes. The first in-house airplane to fly was a copy of a Breguet in 1915. In July 1917, Siam declared war against Germany and Austria-Hungary, thus taking side with France and United Kingdom in the First World War. The next year, 1,200 military personnel, including 340 from the Flying Corps, were sent to France. This happened at the end of the war, when the fighting died out. But the lack of combat opportunities was compensated by the training facilities available to them. More than 100 officers were sent to flying schools in France, of whom 95 qualified as military pilots. Okay, that's all for time. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more videos about the aircraft in this museum, please write down your wish list on the comments below. And please support my channel by clicking like, share with your friends, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I wish you a wonderful day and happy landing.